Okay. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining in again. So today we have somebody very special. I'm very quite. I'm quite in line, right, with the people I've had so far on this channel. We've spoken to Worship, spoken to Bremen, we've spoken to Isaac, and today we have Tobe Oti, right? And Tobe is, I'll just, by what I know him as, right? He's a digital artist, but I'll allow Tobe to just go ahead, introduce himself. Basically, give us first of all his IG handle or like his Behance wherever he posts his stuff, and also like what he likes to be referred as or how he likes to be referred. All right, Tobe.
Okay, so first of all, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for having me here.
Thanks for
Um,
joining.
my IG handle is Tobe TOBEO.TI. That's Tobe Oti, but like there is a there is a dot in the middle. Yeah, I know it's
Mhm.
a little bit confusing. Yes, and my Behance page is just Tobe Oti, TOBEOTI. So yeah, I'm a digital artist. I animate too. I'm learning how to animate right now, so that's something that I've been doing. And I also occasionally produce music, occasionally make music. But for the most part, I'm a digital artist. For the most part, so yeah, that's who I am.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Tobe. So let's just start with basically, like baby levels, right? Where are you from? What kind of schools, like what school did you attend, in which state? And just your childhood up until this point.
Okay, I'm from Imo State. Well, I was born and raised
Tobe,
in
sorry, originally. Is
yeah,
that
originally no. No. You have to put like where you were born, where you are from. Like that's like your state of
when
origin.
you put the originally, I'm like, Go ahead, go ahead.
They call it state of origin for a reason. But yeah, I'm from Imo State, and I was born and raised in Lagos. So majority of my life was in Lagos State. So yeah, I attended. To be very honest, I can't remember the name of my primary school. I think maybe that's because I went to like three different primary schools. Okay, I remember one. I went to band staff school. I think it's called Muritala Mohammed Airport School. That was my primary school at some point. I can't even remember the class I was. That's besides the point. I also my secondary school was Air Force Ikeja,
F
and
Force.
then
Oh.
yeah, Air Force Ikeja, and then I went to
So you
I went
only
to
did one secondary school, Air Force all through.
no I did command, but I did command just one term, literally just one term, and my parents pulled me out. They said I was too skinny. I did command boarding school, just as well. They pulled me out. They were like, no, to be you're too skinny, no, we can't have this. So they pulled me out, and then I did Air Force for the rest of.
Well,
Yeah, that
is
was
Air
how
Force
it went.
boarding school as well, or is it day school?
No, yeah, Air Force is no Air Force is boarding. The command is also boarding. But the command I went to was a boarding, but the
Mm-hmm.
Air Force I went to was day. That was what I went to like, for the entirety of my secondary school tenure, I guess. Then yeah, I was in CU for a short while. That's a long story.
Ah,
What?
no, unpack the long story. That's
It's
what
a it's a very long story.
bro, unpack.
It's a, it's a story for I don't like to remember that I was in CU, to be honest, but hey, we're not going to get into that. I was in CU for a short while, then I wasn't in CU, then I went to Ilorin, University of Ilorin. That's where I graduated from.
Okay.
Yeah, so I studied geography. That's the course I graduated with. But as you have me here, I'm obviously an artist, so
Mhm.
majority of my childhood was really ingrained in art. You know, like I was very interested in I was very interested in movies from a young age, in
What kind of
comics and
movies?
just movies and like no, I mean like I had like a very strong interest in movies like
Mm.
every type of I have an affinity for horror movies. That's like what I really like.
Ah.
But but I like every type of movies, but horror is like my favorite genre of movies. So like, I just liked I don't know, I liked movies. I liked the idea of what they call what's this what they call this. I like the idea of I like the idea of fiction, just the concept of fiction of
Mm.
other worlds, like watching movies and suspension of disbelief. Yeah, suspension of disbelief. I just like the idea of that and
Mm.
how creativity works. It was always in my head as early as I can remember. So there was movies. I really liked cartoons. I was a very big fan of anime growing up
Mm.
and music too, comics. I was just an all rounder. I liked a lot of things. I always like that's like how I knew how to express myself because I wasn't a very outgoing kid. So I did more of my expressing by drawing. Yeah, so that's literally it's literally like me. That's who I am. I create basically. So I guess that's a that's a good summary, right? That's a decent summary of
Yeah.
what I do. Yeah, for the most part, yeah. Yeah.
It's not real. Like, are you sure you don't talk about that see? Because I mean, I was supposed to go to see you too, but I didn't. Right?
Yeah, well, you dodged that bullet, but again, we are not going to go into that. We're not going to go into that. That was something else. Yeah.
All right, nice. And in Lauren, you studied what
I
course?
studied geography in Ilorin, geography and environmental management.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Um, all right, and I mean, from your stay right in your transition, should I say transition? I don't know, Sha, but like from Lagos to Ilorin, just even there, do you think there's like a cultural? Did you experience any culture? First of all, can you speak Yoruba?
No, I can't even speak my language. It's a disgrace, I know, but I'm learning. I understand it, but I can't speak it. It's weird.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. So like for your transition, right? Because going from growing up in Lagos and then coming to Ilorin, for example, do you think there's a difference, like culturally speaking, the people, the environment? Do you have an advantage that you were in Lagos, or just your difference between Ilorin and Lagos, especially when it comes to schools and just the atmosphere?
The atmosphere. The funny thing is, I really, really like Ilorin. I really like Ilorin
Oh my
because
god.
no. The funny thing is, I like.
I was talking to
Yeah.
Bruno last week,
Uh
and
huh.
Bruno was like, he was
No,
shaking.
no, no, no. The thing is, I understand where he's because me and Bruma we were basically roommates at some point. We spent a lot of time together in Ilorin, so I understand where his hatred comes from. Most of my hatred of Ilorin comes from that same place too. But for the most part, Ilorin has this serene. It's a very on a very good day. Ilorin is a very because especially for someone like me, what you might refer to as an introvert. I like um
You
I'm
want
not a very not that I'm not a very social person. I've grown to like solitude. I don't know if that makes sense. But I really like solitude and Ilorin is a very serene, like it's not you don't really have too many people there. First things first. It's nice that it's a school. I mean, where I lived in Tanke, it's a school environment. Like all the students live there, but at the same time, you can't compare it with somewhere like Lagos, where Lagos can be a mess sometimes. Like when I was in secondary school, I remember how I would go to school.
Mhm.
I would have to leave my house around like 6 because I was living pretty far from my school. And
Mhm.
then I would enter bus and then just that, doing that. And then I did IT. I worked in Lagos for a short while. So I also experienced the life of like a nine to five in Lagos. So
Um,
Lagos just has this very strong hustle and bustle culture that like really gets to you if you because you're waking up by if you want to catch like get to where you're going to early, you're waking up by 4, you're leaving your house by like 4 5,
yeah,
you're
it's
going to
not
spend
95
a
again now. It's like
No,
four
it's
to
not.
five. It's four
It's
to five. It's not
it's
nine
not
to
even it's not even 4 to 5. It's like 4 to 10, 11. Because when you're coming back, you meet
five.
like serious. So it's a Lagos can be really stressful. Lagos is also very nice. There, you see, that's the duality of everything. Ilorin has its good parts and it has its down parts. Like in Ilorin, there is a very strong. When I was there, that is, there's a very strong creative community there. But like, I think even till now, I mean, it's a school. You
Lauren.
definitely have. No, when I that's like when I was there, there was a strong, like, I had a group of friends and we were like all pretty creative. We had like the same interest, and I'm pretty sure there would still be that now, because where you have like people studying, where it's a school, you definitely have people that are into that type of thing. But we didn't really have opportunities that like people were coming in to like look at what folks in Ilorin were doing. You understand? Like,
Mm.
there wasn't really like a buzz for Ilorin. Ilorin was just like a place Ilorin. You get, but yeah, for the most part, I actually like the place. Ilorin is the type of place you just go and chill and just, if you just want to like have downtime, just have your downtime and then
So
skip out when you're done.
we need Don Jazz in Ilorin.
No, no, it doesn't have to be. No, the thing is, there are a lot of. No, that's the funny thing. It's a big, and it's not just Unilorin. You have Kwara State University, and you have. I think there are two polytechnics there. I can't remember, but like it's a big Kwara State University, University of Ilorin, and some other polytechnics. So it's like a big in the entirety of Kwara, especially in that Ilorin vicinity. There's like a whole lot of young people that are like very talented in like what they do. When I was there, and like I said, I'm pretty sure they're still there right now. Like in the people that are in their years now. But like when I was there was so many talented people, an awful lot of talented people. But like the community is just like, it's a community there of people trying to thrive, doing what they do. But it's not like there is anyone out, like, like there is I mean, in Abuja, like there is a very huge creative community in Abuja, and like eyes are on Abuja, eyes are on like what people are doing in Abuja. You understand?
Mm.
There are eyes in Lagos. I mean, Lagos is the eyes to even begin with. Their eyes are like looking out like these are the, like, for instance, what's like the whole Alte culture and whatnot.
Mhm.
It's, you understand? It's like
Yeah.
there is a whole, should I call it a counterculture, that's like that can actually go toe to toe with like the main industry, because they're doing it, like so many of them are on that level, and they are not even fighting for that space, they are fighting for like other spaces. So there's that. But like in Lorry is something else. So if you're a creative in Lorry, you actually have to branch out. That's for the creative side. But aside that, just living, day-to-day living, I don't think it's not really, it's not bad. But if you're a creative, like, this is the exact reason why Brummel, this is probably one of the many reasons why Brummel hated the place, because you don't really have much to do. You're just in the same circle, you perform in the same places, the same
Mm.
people. There's nothing growing. They don't really have concepts there. It's just very far and wide. You get, so yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I saw it at my time there.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get to the structural issues, right, when it comes to the creative industry in Nigeria, like much later in the conversation. But I'll just like recall one incident that Boomer spoke about when we were having a conversation. He said that there was a talent show. I think he mentioned yourself, right? But like by that time you were I think you were still using like gold drum machine, right? As your name, and at least like your musical name, right?
I still
And
do
okay,
actually. Just I haven't done anything music in like okay, I have, but I have, it's a long story. Go on. It's a very long story.
yeah, like there was a talent show you guys were having, and then I think it was there was one song he sang. So I think all of you, John Legend, that they clap for him. He was like, "Oh yeah!" Like everybody, the crowd was like, like very excited, right? And then like two auditions later, he went there. He sang like a who was it? I don't know, like one, all like a British artist. I think he went to go and sing a British artist song, right? A Laurie, and they put him out of the stage. They literally put you and told you to go. I'm like, wow. Well, yeah, maybe just culture as well, just influence, like, what they are used to, right, is what they will appreciate more, like than what's an
Yeah,
outsider.
yes, exactly. Yes. Yes, there isn't much diversity. I don't think it's just the Lorry. It's a thing. It's a Nigerian thing. But like you said, we'll get to that. It's a thing. But yeah, it's a thing I've noticed. It's a little bit far and wide from what I've experienced. But yeah.
Nice. So let me just ask, like, before we just go any further, just connect everything together. What do you feel about being in Nigeria in the 21st century, right? I'm talking about, I don't know if you're a millennial or Gen Z, right?
I'm a
Um,
millennial.
all right, so like just being a millennial in the 21st century, like to you, how do you feel? What does it feel like to you?
Uh, there's so many ways I can describe it, but like I think the best way to describe it is bittersweet. It's very bittersweet because first things first, I love being in Nigeria. I think just from I know a lot of people will be like, even me too, will be like, oh God, why did you like dump me in this country and what? A lot of people will be like that. Yeah, and I get it. Yes, me too, inclusively. But like,
Yeah, all of
there
us.
is a there is a certain I don't know, there is a certain charm, there is a certain what's I can't put my finger on it. What's the best way to describe it? There's a certain je ne sais quoi about being in Nigeria.
You don't enter another language. Oh,
Like
Tobe.
no, just hear me out. There is a certain and it's not a thing of pride. Nigerians generally, on if you put morality on a out of it, take morality out of it, just put it on like a logical look at it from a logical standpoint. Nigerians are very smart people. Nigerians are actually, I don't know whether it's the hardship that we experience, like we experience hardship, like especially Nigerians living, not just Nigerians living in Nigeria. Nigerians are smart people. That's just well, like very smart people. We are very we're very rigorous in our everyday lives because we are suffering. To be very honest,
Mhm.
Nigerians are suffering. Nigerians living it's not easy because it's literally not easy, especially for in our age group in our generation. It's not easy because you have so many things going against you, especially if you are not, even if you are maybe you studied a STEM course, you are doing law or you're doing medicine or you're doing engineering. See the way we treat our doctors. I mean, people that are meant to be like cornerstones of it. So it's very tough, but at the same time, we have a certain resilience because we still find a way, especially like you still find a way to like because I mean, if you look at records, I've not really looked at it recently, but if you look at records, maybe in a country like America, you get to see that a lot of black professionals, they are Nigerian or they have Nigerian roots. A
Mhm.
lot of Nigerians the Nigerians do well. Like we excel in what we do. Like um crap. What episode was that? Do you watch Atlanta?
No, 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 no.
Okay, there was this episode of Atlanta. I think one of the characters I'm referencing something he said. I think his parents were Nigerian or something. So the main character asks him, like he was like, are Nigerians allowed to fail or something? And then the guy was like, you know Nigerians don't fail. So that's like the best way I can describe it. Nigerians we are very resilient. So there are so many things that have to happen for like this country to like be conducive for us in our age group living in it. So, but like personally, it's bittersweet because I feel like Nigeria doesn't have anything to offer me, which is it sounds like a selfish thing to say.
Mhm.
It sounds like a very selfish thing to say, but at the same time, it's kind of the way I look at it. But like I don't like to look at it in that aspect. I like to look at that at what I can do because how would you put it? Even in my condition, I'm still I'm still from privilege. You understand? Even in my condition, I have access to, even if it's not, even if it's not financial, but I have access to a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of knowledge that a lot of people don't have access to, or they were not chanced to have the 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 avenue to open their minds to have access to that. You understand what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm even speaking from a place of of privilege, but not everybody has that chance, because I mean, I work every week 9 to 5, so I commute a lot and I see a lot of things, and you can see that Nigerians are, it's not easy. I think that's just the best way to put it. It's not easy, especially in this era we find ourselves in. But uh, what can we do? We just continue to hope, I guess. But yeah, that's what it's. That's how I see Nigeria as a Nigerian living in Nigeria, basically.
Mm. Like from what you say, it just sounds like a melodrama, in its entirety. I don't know, like sadly and at the same time, like comically. Um,
Yeah, no, funny enough, yes, it is, because I mean, isn't this the country a couple of years ago? It's ridiculous. It's the same country where, like, they literally came out and put up a post and said Snake went into an office and ate money from a safe and then dipped. I don't know if you remember that period, but that was like, I'm
yeah,
like, the
yeah.
fact that this can be something that's on the news, I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is the level we are in, actually. Wow. Yeah, well, so it's funny. It's hilarious, but at the same time, it's not funny. Yeah.
Exactly. So like that melodrama juxtaposition, like almost like and that's the thing, right? I just think like sometimes I'm vexed that we use comedy to cope, but I'm like, how can you not?
How can you know exactly? Humor is just like the best way to like
Yeah.
to like quench your pain.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to like more on you now, like basically art, right? First of
Yeah.
all, what do you define as art? When you say I am an artist, like what do you define as art that makes you an artist?
Art is to me, art is just, for the most part, it's just self-expression. Anything can pass as art. You understand? Like anything, people. This is the way I see it. People that people that just work, maybe like people that like maybe an engineer's work of an engineer is art in his eyes. You understand?
Mm.
I know this is very vague. This is a very vague way to look at it, but like, yeah, it's basically your. It's basically, for me, it's your expression. It's like the way you express yourself without words. It's like fashion is art. Like people express themselves. Like you look at how someone dresses, and you can kind of tell the type of person he or she is. That's a far-fetched way to look at it, but you understand what I mean.
Mm.
It's just a people have tattoos like this, telling stories, different tattoos. Like you look at the tattoo, and tattoo is it's a story telling something that has happened. The person put that tattoo there because something inspired the person to put it there. So art is literally just self-expression, and for me, it's very strong because I feel the compulsive need to create. Like I have to create. Like that's how I've always been. Like when I was young, I used to do this ridiculous thing. It's not
Mhm.
ridiculous, but like I had a very active. That's literally even where my drawing came from. I had a very active imagination, so I would create stories in my head, and I'll just keep on building the lore, and then I'll start drawing the characters. Sometimes it's not stories. Sometimes I'll create like it because I was also obsessed with football. Still am, but like I'm an Arsenal fan, so you know how that
Oh
goes.
my god! Hey,
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
say football and put Arsenal in the same team.
My guy, you know how that goes. So it's an abusive relationship, but it's a relationship
Yeah, in
nonetheless.
Nigeria, now Arsenal fan.
What
Like,
can I do, man? What can I do? I've been supporting these guys for a very long time. So, but hey, back to the point. So, when I was younger, I would make like fictional football leagues, like literally make like fictional football leagues with like fictional players, and literally draft it and like make the plot of like the entire season. I used to do that in my head. So I would draw like the car, like when Super Strikers was still a thing. I used to do stuff like that. Yeah. So it was just a way for me to express like the things in my head. And then I got to a certain age because I like music. I really like music too, but like I never really knew how to put that into. I
What
never knew how
what
to.
what side of music though? Like, were you more into the production, or were you more into actual singing or of music, or
I
both?
don't, at first it was singing. I like to sing.
Mm-hmm.
I really like to sing. I That was like another thing. Like I said, I like music. I like songs, so I would sing. At some point, I started to write songs, and again, like I said, it's a very compulsive need. So when I feel the compulsive need to do something, I have to do it. So I started to go to studios. So I couldn't really find producers that like could like give me what I wanted to hear.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Like I couldn't really find people that. So I remember it. I think I was in SS1 at the time. I went to Computer Village and I I bought FL. I can't remember the FL,
Lagos.
but it was the demo, so I couldn't save. But like make like yeah in Lagos, yeah. So I'll make like trash beats. I made like trash beats for years. I was just making trash beats. At the time, they weren't trash to me. They were like the best thing ever. You understand? But like, I made it, and at some point, I got good at it. So that's how it just played out for me. So yeah, everything just came from it because I wanted to. I was writing, I was doing comics. I had friends that were doing comics when I was in secondary school. So we do comics. They never really went anywhere, but like at some point I wanted to animate, and I was like, how does this work? So recently I started to learn, and then I also picked up 3D along the way. It's just as it comes to my head, I want to do it. Like even funny thing is, at some point I started getting interested in programming because programming is actually pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like developing is actually pretty interesting. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently learning JavaScript now, and the thing about JavaScript is when you learn it to a certain point that it begins to like you start to see it's all creativity, like the way you create something and the way you build something, like the way maybe you build, because I'm still a novice, I'm still pretty much a novice, so I've been making small projects like calculators, and but like the calculator will come up and then you see how it works. It just has this kind of joy. There's this joy to it. So that's like what art is for me. It's really just how you express yourself. It's really how it's like the best way to express yourself. You understand? Like a lot of people, I think I know I'm rambling, but I think like human nature actually forces us to express ourselves because a lot of people take pride in
What about human nature, though?
no, like look at it this way. A lot of people take pride in like okay, let's say for instance a person is has a job, is working a job, is like living a life, but the person also has like maybe something they do to relax themselves, like maybe like knitting. They're knitting, or maybe they like make tie and dye. They would, if you really talk to them, like you really get to know that person is going to, when you have like a conversation with that person, or you get into a deep conversation with that person is definitely going to talk more about that thing they do rather than the job they are working or other things in their life, because that is what makes them, how that is what makes them alive in a certain way. It's like a trance. I don't want to say, yeah, more or less, it's like a trance you are put into. Like it forces you to be in the moment. Like for instance, when I say this a lot of times, but like the happiest I am in any given situation, the happiest I've ever found myself is when I'm sitting down in a quiet place, my laptop in front of me, or my computer in front of me, I have speakers, and I'm making a beat. That's like when you find me at my happiest. So
Mm.
it's just that putting myself in that moment, and I'm
Mhm.
making something in that moment. There's a certain rush to it. So that's really what art is for me, and I'm glad I was able to like find the ability to express myself from a young age. Yeah.
All right. Nice. I think yeah, like I don't know, just listen to you, right? Your it's kind of like um just connecting to your definition of expression. Like, it's kind of like it's exactly that for you in the sense that you imagine something and so you think about how to express it, and so you just if it's like drawing, you draw, right? I mean, the fictional football league, I'm like, me, if the idea comes, I'll just even like, I beg, right? But like for you to like turn it into something that can be seen, right, by others, right? Even like the comic that did not work out as well. I mean, to making beats, right? It just makes me able to question, like, like what happens, what kind of things triggers creativity to you, right? Or triggers, like, that's because sometimes it's just like a rush that you feel when you get inspiration or when an idea comes to you. I can, like, personally speaking, sometimes I like to run, so I'll just be running, right? And like that's why I can't run without something that I can jot down, right? If it's a phone or a pen or whatever. And like like you just be running on your own, maybe listen to a podcast, and then like an idea comes, right? And at that moment, it's like, oh my god, right? I like, this is so interesting, this is so magnificent. And I think like just hearing you speak to you is just like, okay, this is magnificent. How can I translate this into the real world, right? And then you draw, and then you make music, or you make a beat.
Yeah, yeah. The key word in what you said is at the moment, in the moment. That's very important because something I've been trying to practice. I've been trying to like not really dwell too much on the past or dwell too much on the future because
Mm.
not to get metaphysical, but they don't really exist right now. All we have right now is right now. I mean, the next second is
Whoa,
right now.
let's no no no
You
no
get my
let's
point.
let's dwell
So
on no, let's actually dwell on this now, because we need to actually speak on this, right? I mean, metaphysics is not like, it is a necessary concept. Sometimes people just shun it just because it
you
tends.
sound pretentious when you start to talk about.
Exactly. But I mean, it's just, for me, it's just a way, it's just the beginning of thinking. That's how I like to see metaphysics, right? Because once you start to ask yourself, I don't know, what is time, right? Because from time is, if you, I mean, in physics, right, it's like a first principle. Because for you to understand, the 1 p.m. or the clocks or whatever they're using today, like, well, for example, organizing our Zoom meeting, right, we chose a time or whatever, like, how did that come about, right? Is metaphysics. Like, how did we start thinking about this thing? That's how I like to see it. So let's dwell on it. Maybe you'd like to speak on that more. Just the now of it, and like, as an artist, right, to you, how the now is like a good leverage point, or do you think is a good leverage point?
It is. In fact, it's literally the only leverage point because, okay, for instance, let me use an example of my process when I make beats.
Okay.
Before I make a beat, I like to go in like when I open the software I use and I'm sitting down and I'm ready to make it. I like to go in empty. Like I don't like to go in with any idea. So I'm asking myself, present me an idea. I open my laptop and I just start to tinker. I start tinkering. I could spend hours. This is when I have time, and maybe like, and I know that's the thing. I do it to unwind. Like on a Friday night, maybe when I'm done from work, I don't really have any commission to do. I don't really have anywhere to go. I don't even really go out that much. You get a lot of people would maybe
Where,
want to
where are
go
you
out
now? Are
and
you which state are you now?
I work in Port Harcourt, so I'm in River State now.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay, so I was saying, it's a Friday and you want to go out, but like me, an idea of unwinding is just sitting down and like trying to make something. So I'm sitting down, I'm trying to make a beat, and I'm like, I ask myself, present the idea to me. And then I sit down, I tweak, I play with sounds. And then in a moment, I hear something in what I'm doing and it comes to me. Just like that, it comes to me. I'm like, yes, this is what I'm doing now. And from that little snippet or that little tiny thing I just hear, I start to build on it. I'm not building on it with okay, I want this to sound like Afrobeat. I want this to sound like hip hop. I want this to sound like like rock. That's
Mm.
the idea I'm going about with it. I'm going about it. And does this sound like something I would like to listen to? That's basically how I'm looking at it. Does this sound like something that I resonate with? If it doesn't sound like something I resonate with, I would either just close it and I won't work on it again, or I'd abandon the project and go to something else. That's literally how I work. So I take priority in like momentary moments, like in the moment, like I'm trying to get the inspiration in the moment. That's the reason why motivation is a scam, to be very honest, especially as an artist. If you're an artist and you're always waiting for motivation, you won't make anything, to be very honest. And that's like a mistake I made for a while. Because you're sitting, you're waiting for, oh, I'm motivated to do this, and then you do it. What makes you think? Because motivation runs on energy. And funny thing, as much as we don't, sometimes we might not want to admit it, our daily energy is finite. You start from one point and it's dwindling, dwindling, dwindling till the end of the day. So if you don't have like, that's why I'm a very disorganized person, but like I had to force myself to like get a routine, like to actually be able to do what I want to do, like set a routine for myself. So I know this time I would sit down and force myself to like something must come out and something will come out, whether I like it or whether I don't. Yeah, so I really prioritize like in the now, in the moment, because like I said, going back to like really touching on metaphysical ideas and whatnot, there isn't really any. I mean, what's to say that the you can't describe. If someone asks you, tell me what's going to happen in the next hour, you really can't describe it because it doesn't exist. And then the past that has already existed is just a memory. It's not real. It's not tangible. You can't touch it. The only thing you can touch and you can feel and you can experience is right now. You understand? So in that right now, that's like where everything is based on. That's like where the creativity is from. That's why it's expressed. That's why it's expression. You're expressing yourself in real time from this moment to that moment. You're expressing yourself. So maybe it's in the way you talk. Some people talk smoother than other people. Some people dress better than other people. Everybody has their own means of
Mhm.
expressing. Some people like to ride motorcycles. Some people are very into cars. Some people like to cook. These are different. That's like how humans are wired, and these things are like they come to you from from any moment, from like when you are in your formative years. Understand? So that's how I see it. That's how I really see it. To be very honest, that creativity is really ingrained in our, like, okay, even in ancient times, even if like they had like really messed up ways of going about it, but like they still found a way to have sports. I mean, they had like they had gladiators, even if it was really messed up.
I think the definition of sports tends to change. Maybe each
Yeah,
human
each
existence
like yeah, it's maybe like each millennia or some shit like that. But like
or something. Yeah.
the point I'm trying to say is like even then, even in the, I mean, there are reports of like drawings in caves. Early cavemen like drew because they had to like that was the way they could express themselves. You get, so like every moment, that's like one thing that will follow humans. It will continue to follow us. Like we cannot evade it. That's like, how will I put it? Okay, so
Have
it's
you
again
have you
to not
watched
sound very.
Have you watched Ready Player One, like the
Of
film?
course, yeah,
Yeah, and I'm just like, just even like as we are just like as you just as you just mentioned sports, right? I'm just like thinking like and like especially because of the news, right? I mean, you say you're into football, like they are going to put trackers there inside footballs, and
yeah, for the next World Cup, yeah,
yeah, with VARs and everything, right? It's kind of like you know when VAR benefits your team, it's like yay. When it doesn't, it's like that thing is useless, right? All of that. But I mean, the way it has just changed sports, right? I mean, before it was like the human errors was part of the whole enjoyment,
yeah, it was part of the whole enjoyment of football.
right?
Actually, yes,
Because you
yeah,
like all the because after the match, you guys start debates. Oh my god, this guy not like this was so clear now, and like even the referee might see after the match that it was, but like the game has ended, you can't do anything about it, right? But just the human need to remove errors, right? Especially in sports, right? I mean. like why do we move from gladiators? Even football, right? Football was not a fancy thing. So I took a course in uni and we just studied about like just the history of football. And I think in the 80s, 90s, right? How did we even reach football? Anyways, in the 80s, early 80s, 90s, it was like more hooligans, quote unquote, what we consider as hooligans, right? Especially in Britain. Um that were watching football. I mean, other parts of the world, like Spain, like especially depending on the club, like people respected people in the society used to go and watch football, right? But in Britain particularly, right, like people did not like it was not a family thing at all. It was kind of like the beer environment, right? A bar environment where people go and then it's like all shout, all fighting, kind of like the gladiator fan base, more or less, right? At that point, but
Yeah,
it transitioned, right? Because as human beings, we just like to make things more. I don't know if it's more ethical, reduce errors, right? But then in the process, like maybe we reinvent the emotions, right? Because it's not like people do not like football now. Like people still like football, right? There's still errors, right? But then why I brought Ready Player One is that okay, I don't know, the next 100 years now we will have a point probably whereby I don't know, right? We'll transition to cyborg-ish kind of players, right? I don't know how that will be done, right? But maybe like there's just added features, maybe to your boots or added features, right? On the stadium. I mean, if you look at the Bernabeu Stadium, like the one that Florentino Perez is building, like I saw like part of their plans that you can convert it to like a basketball field pitch, a basketball court, right? And then like their
yeah.
leaders, you disintegrate it again, it can become like an NFL kind of an American football pitch, right? So all just like trying to make everything perfect, right, tends to remove, especially in sports, it removes an important element of our expression, right, which is not to say it is bad, right, because all of these things somehow have ethical. I mean, obviously I don't want like gladiator, like that's bloody, without
I mean,
human
they
being.
basically die and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly, right. So I mean, the definition of sports to me, like the way it just transitions, right, sports as a form of expression, and just the redefinition of sports, right, thinking of it linearly, and especially like in reference to like the future and just like technology, the advancement in technology that we're having today. Bro, how did we get to this point? I don't know, but anyway, let's just
It's no, it's a conversation. You divert, and that's why it's a conversation.
yeah.
But yeah, it's true because the thing is, again, to something I said, we can't help it. We can't, as humans, we cannot help it. We have to change. That's why they say change is the only thing that's constant. I mean, I'm old enough to proudly say I lived in the era when we still had floppy disks. Like
Mm.
growing up, we had a computer in our house. So we had a
You're a
computer,
beg boy,
and
man. How many
I
stuff
beg,
in
is
your
it?
house?
I beg, I
Wait,
beg.
did you? No, I like it must be a short. Like you had, I'm sure you had like your neighbors, everybody was coming to your house.
No,
Or
no, 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 no. It wasn't. It wasn't that. Like
okay.
for okay, I grew up in different settings, but for a decent part of my childhood, I grew up in a setting where like we're living somewhere, and then there were kids in the neighborhood, and that was the era, that was the PS2 era where everyone had PS2s,
Mm.
and and we were always playing games. But like back to the point is that I lived in the era where we had like, because we had this big ass cabinet, and then we had like CDs, and then we also had like a space of floppy disks. And floppy disks were stuff that like we used at the time. Like you could put it and you could actually store like stuff in it. And there are kids today that you show them a floppy and they're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
You know, that is it's just the advancement of technology. We can't help it. I remember there was a time when CDs are literally out of. When last did you hear a musician putting out an album and they say they don't prioritize, they just prioritize it for quote unquote like the same way they prioritize them, or like the same way they put out music on vinyl. It's the same way they will put out music just for sentimental purposes. The main cake where you get your shares from streaming now. Who would have thought like a couple of years ago that streaming is we have so many streaming services, not just for music. We have streaming services for games. We have streaming services for movies. We have Netflix. We have Amazon. That's like where we are now. You understand? And it's still grow into something else. I mean, now you see the metaverse and everything. As much as people dislike NFTs and whatnot, it will still grow into something that becomes the normal thing. This is how it was in the 90s. You know, when the internet was coming up, people were like, oh, what is this? What is this? What is this? What is this? Again, I was lucky. I'm lucky. Like, you remember I said I was lucky to be able to experience some of the things I experienced. I actually experienced, like, I was actually on the internet on a, like, I was one of those people that were obsessed with like internet forums and like all those when I was growing up. I was really obsessed with it. You understand? So that culture, the way the internet was, like, ask anyone that lived in that era, they'll tell you the golden age of the internet was 2007. That era when before at that point that was like the new point of YouTube. You see how YouTube is a staple in our lives now. At that time, YouTube was barely nothing. There was no Facebook. There was Facebook, but there was barely any Instagram. There was no
That was
WhatsApp. There
when
was
the
no
iPhone
Twitter.
too, right? The
Yeah,
first
yeah,
iPhone.
you get that was also an innovation that Steve Jobs and the people at Apple came up with. You understand?
Yeah.
Came up. It's just that's the thing. Human nature. Like there is this movie, Hot Tub Time Machine. I don't know if you've seen it.
No, no.
It's this stupid comedy that a bunch of guys like travel to the past in a hot tub. So when the movie was ending and like they were like all they've resolved all the conflicts that they were meant to resolve in the movie, they're now meant to travel back into the future. So one of them was like, nah, that he's good. He's not going. He's just going to chill in the past. They're like, okay. So when all of them went back to the future, this guy literally was like Bill Gates in like the current time. He literally took like the ideas of like Bill Gates and like all the like took the
Oh
ideas of
wow!
Google,
He went and
Microsoft,
stole the
and
ideas.
basically just created everything. So he was like the richest. He was like Tony Stark in the present. He was like, yeah, this is why I stayed back.
Oh
So
wow!
yeah, just that's just human nature. We can't help it. I mean, you are seeing cars that are driving themselves. It will just keep on. That's the thing with sports. To just keep on growing, 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 growing. It's not that we are trying to remove errors. It's just the human need to advance. We can't help it. That's why. That's even one of the reasons why, even when you look at stuff that's as terrible as war. I mean, you look at, because recently I've been very, for some weird reason, I like to obsess over history. I also really like looking into history. So I've been very, very into the events that led to World War One and World War Two. And a lot of that was just people that like grew out of that, like the people that like that advanced, like the way the Germans advanced in World War Two was because they had the industry. They were very efficient with their engineering.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they had better armor and better. It was just the advancement. People just keep so when okay. That's why a lot of people
There's
will
an
say,
irony with that too, because in the sense that there's this book. I don't know if you know Ray Dalio, right? The guy that wrote Principles. He also wrote a book called The Changing World Order, right? And basically stating so what he did, right, with the book, or basically the main point is across history, right? He went to go and see, so he studied like basically how empires rise and fall, but in
yeah,
connection to like financial systems, and in connection to just social systems, right, and culture. And so like all in all, he was able to see that it's actually cyclical, right? In the sense that I don't know how far back he went. But anyways, like a point whereby, from the Dutch people ruling, right? So, that period, the Dutch royal company that was going overseas and all of that, right?
yeah,
We were like on basically the US of that point, right? And then, this came, so there were some trends like pressure inside, lack of productivity because everybody had money, right? Everybody now started demanding for more because they had money, right? Inflowing, right? And then like as a result of that, right, now started to be like crisis inside the society, and then then like interest rate problems, and then monetary problems, and then as a result of that, right, the state becomes weak and fragile, right, very on a thin rope. Then another empire comes and like just takes over at that point
Yes.
because they're more
Yeah.
ready. So I mean, in that sense, right, human beings, it's like we constantly say we're advancing, but are we really advancing in the actual sense of advancement, right? Because I mean, for you, and also like for you to advance, right? I always ask myself, right, when we are talking like this, just more, when politics is being spoken of, when economics is spoken of, like nobody sits down and tells you like the vision or the plan for the future. Right. And I'm not talking about like agenda 2030s agenda or blah blah blah. I'm more talking in the sense that okay, maybe as a country or as a nation or like as a world, right? Where are we actually going? Right? Let's just stop the technology that we were having, right? The politics that we're having, right? I mean, and with politics, I mean the systems, right? Like even the financial institutions that we're having, like where are we actually going? A lot of times, like we just create visions, right, for each particular thing. So I don't know, economically speaking, right? We want to have a sustainable world, but like you want to have a sustainable world for what in connection to what is for me is the main question, right? Like you can't just have a sustainable world. So what after you have a sustainable, like what do you want to do with it, right? And like it's like that conversation does not happen, right? And so we enter this spiral of we are moving forward and we are advancing, but then just like Ray Dalio just puts, like it comes back again and flips on its head. The same thing will happen. Just a point in contact, because I think you must, like you said, you were just studying like the World War One and World War Two, right? The the Third Reich, right? If you notice World War Two, before that, the rise of Hitler. What
Yeah.
the rise of Hitler, right? I mean, the economic problems, the people in the country were starving, like inflation was like on a high, just certain things, right, that led to the rise of it. And like we look at our world today, right, with the dominant power, I mean, the US, right, and you see the same thing, very, very, very tiny, sha. But like if people see like early 20th century or like mid 20th century, sorry, before World War One, and this period, right, a lot of the things are similar at the end of the day. So what do we advance to as humanity? Probably is the question I would now put.
See, that's the funny thing. That's the very funny thing. This is how I look at it. It's very funny because I'm going to start veering into actual real metaphysical ideals. The way I
Go,
look at it
let's go.
is
Let's do
the
this.
way I look at it is okay. We humans to look at us human beings as a whole, our collective consciousness. We humans, we are conscious. We are for to the best of our knowledge, we are the only sentient beings in our planet. Okay, we are the only sentient beings in our planet, and to the best of our knowledge in the universe. I mean, we cannot say we are the only because we are not certain. We cannot, but we are the only sentient beings in our observable universe. One, and secondly, we have a very short lifespan. We don't even live the longest on Earth. We don't even live a quarter of the longest on Earth. The best a person can live at two is 100, and 100 you're already expecting to live. You understand? But we are conscious. We are conscious of our environment. We are conscious of the universe. We are conscious of ideals. We are conscious of science. And if you look at the universe, you look at even not just going to the universe is very far. Look at our world. How does everything occur? Everything occurs in loops, year in, year out, season in, season out. The sun rises, the sun sets, the sun rises, the sun sets. The flower blooms, it goes back, it blooms, it goes back. The air cracks, something comes out, it dies, goes back into the ground. From that, the plants, everything is cyclic. And we humans, unfortunately, we are just, the way I see it, we are just the universe. The universe is conscious through us. So we cannot help but actually still follow that loop. That's why everything we do, it's true, like exactly what you said, everything we do is just a loop. We just go to a certain point and then restart, we loop. We go to a certain point and then we loop. We go to a certain point and then we go back to the beginning and then we loop. There are so many civilizations that have come before us. I mean, you had the Roman Empire, you had like so many way before this current civilization. This current civilization will die and something else will come. So it's not really in our power to see that far. We don't have the if we lived, maybe the average human lived for 1,000 years, then okay, maybe you can say, okay, even then, because in the grand scheme of things, in this grand scheme of things, 1,000 years is nothing. Even then, even if you live for 1,000 years, it would still you still wouldn't be able to see that far. So we it's like God gave us the greatest thing any being can have, which is sentience. Give us mind, and like yeah, also your lifespan is ridiculously short. So don't bother yourself about trying to like go as far as you think you can go.
Like,
That's
boy,
how I
you're
see
just
it.
touching the surface of
Yeah.
it's like, oh, time's up.
Yeah,
Um,
the people that come up with the advancements, the great, like even with arts, the great masters before us. There was a time that the artists, I can't remember at the time when they did the picture of that paint. I can't remember who did it. The painting of the Last Supper with Jesus and his disciples sitting. They didn't know what perspective was. They didn't know the concept of, because in art there are fundamentals that you have to learn: perspective, structure, color, values. They didn't know the idea of perspectives. Yeah, they're just like basics you have to learn, like to improve if you want to like actually be good at drawing. So this, if there's a certain era, if you look at all the paintings in that era, they didn't know what perspective was. So all their paintings, the perspectives were looking very weird until I can't remember who like actually sat down and came up with the idea. And then from that era, there was a change. You get, so that's just what it is. You would do something, and that person that, or the set of people that came up with perspective, they won't live long enough to see how far people will take perspective to. Now you have cameras, you have fisheye lens, you have like people can mess with perspective. There are so many. There's this Korean artist. I can't remember his name. He's like a master, because like I'll show you his Instagram later, and you see the type of art he does. He's just he's like a master, because even every single artist, almost every renowned artist in this world, they look at his work and they're like, wow, oh my god, like how can you get to this point? Because the way he messes with perspective in his drawings, it just feels impossible to reach that level. You get, but he's someone that's doing it. And the people that came up with the idea of perspective, they will never have imagined that someone would have gotten to that point skill wise. So you do something, you leave it as a legacy. Other people continue with it. Same way you give birth to children, your children are your legacy. They give birth to it's just a loop at the end of the day.
do you
That's what
think
everything.
that it just maybe our consciousness is what deceives us sometimes, in the sense that because even the whole idea of legacy, right, has that individualist connotation to it, right? In the sense that to want to leave a legacy is like to want to be remembered somehow, right? And
Of course, yeah.
um just that consciousness, right, makes us do things that we knowing that we have a short lifespan, right, makes us want to do as much as possible in the short lifespan we have, just so that at least we can be remembered, right? But then contrasting it to maybe the more holistic, timeless connection, right, of generations, in the sense that maybe it's just like a painting, right? And instead of, I don't know, the linearity of generations, right? It's more um there's a framework set as to existence, right? And so in the painting, right, you are only kind of like a brush, right? Maybe adding some colors, layer, but like there's an image that must come out at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I was talking to somebody one time, and I told them that I was just thinking one time, and like the concept of change is interesting to me. Like it became interesting to me because when you think about it, right, change only occurs in a way with inconsistency, right? I mean, what I mean is that there is change because humans are inconsistent, right? If there's no inconsistency, you can't say something changes in the real sense of it, right? And so it's like, with things like or theories like the butterfly effect, like chaos theory, right? Or with the butterfly effect, you see how human beings, across generations, right? Very inconsistent, all of us, right? Are like bashing ourselves, right? And at that point, right, when you see, all these kind of like mixed, when you see the universe and just like very mixed colors, like so messy, right? But to me, it just makes sense. Because it's kind of like, okay, Musa is going this direction, right? And he said he wanted to do this thing, and then Toby is coming like the opposite direction, say he wanted to do this thing, right? But then, like at the end of the day, instead of going like vertically, right, at a point, like Musa meets Tobe and then they clash, right? And so they become inconsistent in what they wanted to do. And then they start going together in another direction, right? So if Musa and Tobe were colors, right? Musa blue, Tobe red, right? It's kind of like we're supposed to go like vertically one way. And in that sense, right, you clearly see that okay, this is red and this is blue. But then human beings being human beings, we just constantly are inconsistent with what we say we will do. And so at the end of the day, like the change we say, right, is in my perspective, right, just this that a clash of inconsistencies, which at the end of the day, right, creates into something that cannot be predicted. Not because it cannot be predicted per se, but because you cannot predict the human being, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a very interesting way to put it, which is like you're very right. Because again, let's say for instance, what would have happened if the art school accepted Hitler's application and he
Do
was
you
actually able to go to
understand?
Vienna? What would have happened then? What would have happened then? What would have happened then? Or what would
Yeah.
have happened if his father was decided to be a faithful person and not have another family after his first wife? You understand? There are so many like you can't. That's the thing. That is why I said we do not have the. That is why also like I see some of the like again in the Bible there are some things, there are some writings that I see that kind of allude to what I'm talking about in some ways. Like when there's a part, I don't really, there's a part in the Bible where it's like the wisdom of man is foolishness in the sight of God, which if you think about it, is true because look at it this way. Even with all your, as a human being, with all your knowledge and all your technological abilities, you still cannot see the grand scheme of things. You still cannot see from the universal point of view regardless of what you do. Oh, Elon Musk is trying to go to Mars. Oh, Elon Musk is building a rocket that's going to transform into a Tesla when it gets. I don't know. Doing all of that, you still cannot see so far ahead.
Mm.
Same thing, the exact same thing. What Carl Sagan was alluding to when he said we are literally just a speck, an insignificant. Okay, I'm entering nihilistic angles, but
Let's
it's true.
enter the dimensions.
We're literally just a speck. There's literally there is nothing because you live all your years and life is that's you see that's the thing, that's the duality. Life is long but life is short because I sit down today and I and you tell me 2011 was or 2012 was like 10 years ago, and I'm like, what are you saying? How is that 10 years ago? I clearly remember everything that happened in 2012. It feels like yesterday to me.
Hmm.
I remember certain years when I was a kid, and if I just sometimes I just sit down and I enter this, I have this kind of out of body experience where I'm like, wow, I'm really a human being living and existing in this world. And then
Hmm.
I look at my hand, I'm like, wow, so I'm really here. And at some point, I won't be here, and it will be like I was never here in the first place. You
You know
get?
what you just said there? Like, have you seen the book like Thinking Fast and Slow, Daniel Kahneman?
No. But I'm definitely going to read
Yeah,
that.
the
Sounds
one that is,
thinking fast and slow.
yeah, if you
Okay.
just you just talked about, I'm sure everywhere is, there was a point of everyone on Instagram, like the left brain and the right brain stuff. Where that the left brain, blah blah blah. Anyways, like in that book, right? And I think I read the whole book. It gets into a lot of case studies and examples, blah blah. But like the point that I'll never forget, right, is at the end, I think the conclusion he just stated that, human beings, what we really are is our remembering selves, right? And that is all that matters. Like you are only like the things you remember, right? And so every other thing is kind of like doesn't is really insignificant, right? Like you saying that
Yeah,
what is like, because okay, what is 10 years? Somebody should define 10 years. It makes no sense, right? What 10 years is. But like honestly, okay, maybe like distinguishing time also, like in the Greek understanding, right? Like the chronos, like 1 p.m., 2 p.m.
yeah.
Iroh's understanding of time as well, right? Is relevant here. But then at the end of the day, what Tobe is what Tobe remembers, right? And if Tobe can remember,
Exact. Which you see, the funny thing is, this also points back to all I said when we started this
yeah,
conversation. When you asked me, or when you asked me what my like, who am I as an artist, and I literally told you everything I remember from my childhood,
yeah,
because this everything I watched, everything I heard, the music I heard, I'm literally a product of everything I consumed.
mm,
I'm a product of everything I consume. That's when you hear people say they wear their influence on like a sleeve, because they can't help but do that, because that's all we are. You
mm,
see something and it blows your mind. Like when I was young, I remember the first time I saw Ghost in the Shell. That's the 95 anime. And I was like, what the hell? It blew my mind. And that was like cyberpunk, like the whole idea of cyberpunk, because
mm,
there's cyberpunk, there's steampunk. Cyberpunk just became, and then I saw the Matrix, and I was just like, what? Like these ideas are just they're so interesting, and they're like, these things influence me, like they really influence me. You understand? So even 50 years from now, if I'm alive, if I'm still in this world, even 50 years from now, I will still say the same things. If someone asks me, who are you? I'll still say the same things I'm saying today, because that is
mm,
with additional things, because they will happen eventually, with additional experiences. So we are literally nothing but our experiences.
mm,
Literally, we're nothing but our experiences and our memory.
mm.
I guess that's what it means to be human.
Yeah, well, we have gone. Like, maybe this is what
Yeah,
we're about.
we've hit a serious tangent.
We
Yeah,
started at point X. Is that
yeah,
let me stay us back now, right?
yeah, please.
All right. So we're still talking about, like, first, what's your first digitally published work, right? And I'm just looking at, so you tend to like recreate a lot of maybe like movies or characters or whatever. Like I see that you do that a lot, right, in what you do. But what is like the first thing you ever published that you can remember online?
When I was in secondary school, when I was in JSS, junior secondary school and whatnot, I think
Mhm.
JSS 1, JSS 2, around that period. So I used to draw with Microsoft Paint. I didn't know what drawing tablets were at the time. So I would use my mouse, go to Microsoft Paint and draw lines. So I used to draw
You used to
pictures.
use paint to draw.
Yeah, if you look hard enough, or if I look hard enough, I can still find them. I used to post them on Facebook at the time. I'm pretty sure I
That
can
is
still
so
find them
hard.
online.
Like, how do you
No,
even
no, that's the thing. That's the thing. That was the only avenue. I didn't know what drawing tablets were at the time. I
yeah.
didn't even know there was like stuff. There wasn't any touch screen. Was like magic at the time. The
Yeah.
idea of touch screen. That's why even the touch screen products they had there were very terrible compared to like what we have now. You
Mhm.
get, so like back then that was all I had. So at the time I used to draw, I would draw same things. I would just draw like my favorite characters. I'll just draw the same thing, like just things that were influencing me. So that, I think that's the earliest things I used to put online. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that I can still find
On
them online if
Facebook.
I try.
Yeah.
Yeah, on one of my old Facebook pages, because I had like three different ones. But yeah.
All right. I just want to ask, like, on a story of one of the, first of all, I'm like shocked that you have not done what's his name? Oh, Peaky Blinders, Thomas Shelby. Yet, like I scrolled just to check, like if you could do Thomas Shelby. Well, I've never done Thomas Shelby, right?
But the
So,
funny thing is, I've actually not watched Peaky Blinders.
ah,
That's the funny
ah,
thing.
oh
I
God,
know, I know, I
ah.
know, I know. I know it's a legendary show. I know because I've seen some scenes, and I'm a big fan of Killian Murphy too. So I know, and I will get to it. I just have a long list of stuff I'm watching. Like after I finish one, I jump to the other one. I write down like list of things to watch, and it's literally on the list. Peaky Blinders is definitely on the list. So I know I'll get to it one of these days.
Okay, we will temporarily forgive you. But I just want to ask, like, I want to know like the creative process, right? So on your IG page, there's the head study that you did, the random head study. So like the woman and like there are three faces of women, three women faces, and then there are like four skulls there, right? I just want to know basically how your creating process, right, digitally from scratch to completion, and like even how long that takes for you.
If I'm doing a full like those the ones you just described, I was just practicing. That was like a practice run, and it was a practice run I was doing, and sometimes I just have to you have to practice. You have to set out time for practice, and you have to set out time for like actual work when you want to actually do something. So I was
Yeah.
just practicing. Practicing doesn't really take too much time. I'm just sketching. Um, 2 3 hours when I
Okay.
draw. Yeah, but it's not that long when I'm practicing. Like, yeah, when I'm practicing, it tends to be yes. But recently, I started doing 3D about 2 years ago. So I've just been trying to. 3D is very interesting to me, but the problem with 3D is if you don't have a system strong enough, you can't really go. You are restricted because your system is pretty weak. And my system is weak for 3D. It's not meant for 3D work. So, but I've been learning it. So that's another thing that I've been taking real interest in.
So like gamers, laptops is like what you need.
Yeah, even gamers' laptops sometimes are not good enough for 3D. Like you need certain space. I mean, you can use a gamer's laptop for like Alienware. Alienware would work decently for 3D, but like you might even need more. It's a very demanding. It's taking like you have to have like a strong GPU and all that computer computer stuff. But yeah, that's like my process. Yeah.
So for somebody that like looks at your works, maybe like they used to, for example, draw on paper, right? And they just want to start converting it. Like what softwares? Just tell us the history of like the evolution of your software. So you said Paint, for example, right? In one of your
Yeah.
images, Photoshop, right? So like what software did you use initially, and like what softwares or platforms do you use now?
Originally, like I said, originally I used Paint. That was like out of necessity. Then at
Mm-hmm.
some point, I discovered there was a certain point when everybody discovered Photoshop, and oh, this is Photoshop. And even when I started using Photoshop, I still didn't have like a drawing tablet. I was still
Mouse.
using mouse. Yeah, that was really difficult. But then at some point, I bought the drawing tablet. So I used Photoshop for a while. It's the thing is there are different softwares, right? There's Photoshop, there's Krita, there's Paint Toolside, there's Clip Studio Paint.
Yeah.
And the thing about all these softwares is each of them, like there are certain things Photoshop can do that Krita can do, that Paint Toolside can do. And there are certain things that these softwares can do to that Photoshop can do. Again, there are like certain brushes that you can use on Photoshop that you can use for these. So I I switch between my software I use now is Krita because Krita is free and it's an open source software, so they update it often
Mhm.
and it's user friendly. So I use Krita now. I use Paint tool site too, but like it really depends on what you want to do. Like sometimes the pen tool in Photoshop it works better than the pen tool in. Just like I said, there are so many little things here and there that like would make you choose. Like I could use three different softwares to make one painting. Like I do something here, I transfer it to somewhere else. I do something there, I transfer it. It's that's just it. People have different ways. Some people use one, but personally, for like the way I have to create, I have to use different sometimes. It depends on the work again. It depends on what I'm doing.
All right. That's that. You mentioned a lot of software, so anybody listening, right, can just pick up and try. So it's kind of like what you actually want to produce determines what you will use, right, at the end of the day. To give you like the best, the most efficient artwork or product that you're trying to push out. I want to ask, like, what is your favorite work so far, or like what work do you normally go back to because it just has so many maybe emotions or stories to you? It might be one or two, or the entire thing that one too.
I don't know. I really liked because, like, again, remember I told you I'm a big fan of movies. So the
Yeah.
time I was making I was trying to, that was a while ago though, but like I was making frames of like the movies. I some of my favorite movies. So that whole thing was I was really enjoying it. I should even start doing it again because it was good practice for me. Like I was using it to learn values and learn composition and all those all those like principles. And movies, if you it's very in depth in every movie frame. So doing that entire thing was very fun for me. Like I really enjoyed it, and I think I should start doing it again because when I started doing it, I noticed that I was getting better. I'm kind of on a flat line now because I haven't really drawn in a while. I've not done anything 2D in a while. I've just been on 3D, trying to learn 3D concepts and whatnot. But like, I think I should go back to 2D and like start doing that again because every time I do it, I learn something new. Because I'm not just painting, I'm also observing like, oh, why is this light in here? Why is this character fixed here? Why did they make this frame like this? There's always something to learn in these things. So as much as I enjoy painting, I'm also learning. So I think that entire set, because I know it was pretty, I think I can't remember the number, but like I did a number of them, and I really like those ones. I like everything I do, but those ones were the. I guess for the fact that that was the time, that was the moment when in recent history, when I like really noticed that I was getting better.
Mm.
Yeah, I could look at them and like see where I did good and where I did bad. So on some of the recent 3D things I've done,
That
I'm
guy
proud I
on
was
the
able to do them
chair,
because
right?
render times can be ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, like the guy, like the doctor moving on the chair stuff. Like, what was that all about? Like, what were you thinking of? What were you trying to create? Right.
Again, that was just practice. Like I was trying to practice lighting and animation. There's this website for like because 3D animation is difficult. It's really difficult.
Mhm.
Ask anybody that does 3D, they just always try to hide away from animation because it's very difficult. Animation, like all these studios, if you see someone like says he's a 3D animator and he does 3D animation, salute to that person because animation in itself is difficult, but 3D animation is a special type of
But
difficult.
why? What
So there's
makes
this website, the process, because you make a model, like you want to animate a person, you make the 3D model, you have to rig the model to like add armatures, like add bones to the model. So you'll be able to move those bones. So every singular movement you are making, you have to make every like you have to click it in. Like you're literally clicking in every single like if you watch an animated movie, for instance,
Mhm.
just a character turning their head or blinking, you have to do every single one. Sometimes they have pipelines, like they have like softwares where they can like do some really small mundane, animate some really small mundane movements. But for the most part, like see a movie like Into the Spider-Verse, I'm sure you've seen it, the Spider-Man Miles Morales movie. I don't know
Okay.
if you've seen it,
Mhm.
but it was a very popular movie, won an Oscar. That movie, I can't remember how long they said it took them to make like 10 seconds of like to be like, okay, yeah, we like what we see. I think they said it was up like a year or 2 years to like just get like a very short period. That movie made it took them like I think 5 years. Even the current one they are making now, like they are going to release it, I think next 2 years. They've been making it since like that just goes to show you how the amount of work they put into these things. So
Mhm.
people that do VFX, people that do animation, 3D, like I anytime I see them and I like I raise my hand for them. I'm like, you guys are like the true soldiers. Like I respect you guys because it's really difficult. So like there is a software, not a software, website, Mixam with an Adobe website.
Okay.
They allow there are so many animations there that you can take and import to your 3D software. Like you can take animation from them, put the animation on that you see there on your own characters, you get. So that's literally what I use now because I don't have the technical know how to do 3D animation. So then that character, like the doctor and whatnot, was if you go to make someone, you see that same character. I was just trying to learn how everything works. So I made that and I was like, oh wow, this is nice. And then it took me like that short clip. You see how short it is. It
Yeah.
took like about 6 hours to render.
So for the shoe, right? The sneaker.
Then the sneaker, yeah.
Yeah, the sneaker. So like just the process behind that. What was the inspiration?
Again, that was also practice. It was practice. Like there again, most of everything I do is practice. Practice turns to something. So while I'm doing it, I'm learning because I spend a lot of my time on YouTube. I just watch tutorials. There's so many. Like if you want to learn 3D Blender to be specific, there are so many. Like you can literally become a world class VFX artist if you like. Like you can actually learn how much free information is there. Any time I used to practice, so that shoe was also practice. It was practice. A lot of the things you see there is from me practicing something. I'm trying to get an idea or understand how something works, and from there it grows into what the total thing is.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Then I just wanted to ask, I don't even know how like I've not asked this already, right? But then like just the African parents component of this, right? Like first of all, how do your parents receive you as somebody, because to them you're making drawings, right? They don't see the, will I say, the innate value, especially like now digitally speaking, right? And especially like with the economy of all of this, right? They might not be able to see it, right? So how do your parents like what what are your parents' perception on you as a digital artist, basically?
Right now, it's not really. I mean, I'd have said maybe like 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to like, or maybe five, no, 6 years, 7 years ago, thereabouts, I wouldn't have been able to like be okay. I'm an artist, but like at this point, I'm more or less an adult. So I'm working. It's not a thing. I mean, everybody in my family, they know I draw. I would say it was more of a challenge growing up. You know, it was more of a challenge growing up, especially like you said in an African home. A lot of times creativity is not fully understood. Like a lot of things you do is not really understood. A lot of the things you are interested in is not really understood. A lot of times you might be in a place where it seems like you are trying to be pushed into something else, but as time goes on, it's just really sticking to your guns. At the end of the day, you are the person. Everything you do is really on you. You get so
Mm.
right now it's not a thing. I draw, I literally do everything I can. That is my means of survival, not just from the financial part of it. Like I have to do it. It's almost like therapy for me. So it's more of a problem. Or I would say it's more of a, even now it's not really a challenge again because the digital art industry is coming up. It's not where it should be, but like especially with the advent of NFTs, I personally I didn't really go I didn't go into NFTs. I didn't go into NFTs to like make sales and whatnot. But like with the advent of NFTs, there's like a new frontier for digital art. And there is a whole lot more appreciation for art in the current time. It's still not where we want it to be, but it's better now compared to like a couple of years ago.
Okay. And do you think like this is basically like NFTs? Because it's kind of like the same way that there are particular people that just appreciate paintings in museums, right? Like the whole environment, the whole space, it's kind of like a whole ritual to some people, right? You have to, especially like art paints, like arts paintings museums, right? Museums where you only go there to see paintings, maybe like historical or contemporary, whatever, right? how do you think a lot of people can begin to appreciate, because people that go to museum, they appreciate the whole package, right? How do you think, because it also be beneficial to digital artists in the long run, right? People can be made to start appreciating digital art, right, in such a way that it resembles the appreciation of art in museums, right? And I'm saying this especially because of NFTs.
Yeah, well, NFTs are very divisive. Right now, you have like, it's very polarizing. Right now, you have like half, like a bunch of people that swear NFTs are like the worst thing, that swear. Looking at NFTs, there has always been, especially in this space, in like Nigerian art sphere.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how it is in like other African countries, but like, there's always been this, how will I put it? There's always this, you're not a real artist if you're doing digital art. A
Mm,
real artist is doing traditional arts. You get like painting with acrylics, and again, nothing against traditional artists. I didn't learn through that medium. There are so many people that learn traditional arts. They know how to use watercolors. They know how to use acrylics. They are, that's basically where they are. Yeah, and then there are other people that learned, that like got better at art via digital means. So there are two different medium, like in the same space. But there is like I don't know, people look at it like it's the worst thing ever. It's like a scourge, like digital art you get, like, but I feel with time, it's just a matter of time. Right now it's not there, but like again, with NFTs have given a more, for digital art, they've given like a more, like a wider array of, like, because prior to NFTs you couldn't really see. I mean, you would see it; they were still there, but you wouldn't really see like exhibitions with like digital art. It wasn't really as prevalent as it is now.
mm-hmm.
You understand? Like right now, you see a lot of exhibitions, a lot of even virtual exhibitions. And digital art is more like in mainstream art circles, or like originally. And even a lot of people that went to art school, they will tell you that a lot of their teachers would either frown against digital art or frown against you having like maybe drawing anime or drawing in different styles. You get like,
Mm-hmm.
there's so much. I don't know what, I don't want to say it's kind of elite. It has elite, like, oh, we are traditional. We're following this is what the old masters were doing. Something stuff like that. But like, I feel with time it's going to even itself out, because digital art in itself is kind of a new, compared to traditional art has been there for centuries. I mean, all them, Da Vinci and Van Gogh and all of them, they were traditional artists. There was nothing like digital art at the time. So digital art literally just something that came up in this century, in not too far, not a couple of decades ago. So as time goes on, it will become more of an acquired thing. That's how I see it. It's just a matter of time.
Okay. As we just start, I think just start begin to round up because it's taking a long time. Just realizing.
Yeah, it's almost 5. Wow.
Yeah. But I just want to talk about like the economic aspect of the whole for digital artists now. Yes, I think we can get a glimpse that it's not the easiest place to survive, right? Like right now
Mhm.
for Nigerian artists, right? But just economically speaking, right, how can digital artists survive, right? Or how do you make, because I heard you talking about commissions, what's that all about, right? Like freelancing and just working with companies as a digital artist. Like what's that like in your space?
Freelancing is commission. It's basically you realizing like the ideas of others. Like someone has an idea, maybe they want to do like a poster, or they
Mhm,
want to do it's just something, something art oriented, and they want maybe a design for a shirt or something, maybe a music cover, you get,
mhm.
and they come to you with their ideas, present you their ideas. This is what we want. This is what we want. This is what we need. That just give you creative freedom, like do what you want, because they trust your work. And then there are others that have like notes, like you have to do this, it has to be like this, it has to be like this. So it's not really from the creative side. It's not really, because you cannot really flex your creativity. You have to be And that's why commissions are usually better when you are starting to get better at art, because you can do a lot of you can handle a lot of ideas and actually bring them to light. But that's really what commissions are. But they are different. There are people that do type commissions, like for logos and like typeface. Like there's I'm seeing a new trend of Y2K logos. There are people that do that. There are people that do normal flyers, like graphic designers. I used to be a graphic designer. I still have some of the skill to do graphic design, but majorly right now, my commissions are basically illustrations, like maybe portraits, or but like with the advent of NFTs, digital artists have like find ways to like actually sell their original work and make money out of their original work. That's off NFTs and whatnot. So it's not. The thing is, it really depends on your clients. The clients, some clients make it really difficult. Some clients make it very easy. It's the same thing in any business
So,
setting.
well,
So
which
people are
one?
just
Are Nigerian clients the worst people, or like, do you think it's like the same all across?
no. Generally, most of the worst ones are you are the ones you see. I've not really had so many foreign. I've had some, but not so many.
Mm-hmm.
But like a lot of the ones in Nigeria, a lot of clients that you meet and like they get the work done, but there are a lot that make your life difficult.
Mm.
It's business. Even if it wasn't art, if it was in any other sector, there are some clients, or there are some people that you are rendering services for that will make your life a living hell. There are some that will make your life easy. That's just what it is. The question now is managing everything. You have to find a way to manage everything. You have to find a way to make sure that if you are going to be, there is a cap, there is a limit. So like you have a certain fee you are collecting, you have a certain, you're charging. Sometimes you charge by the hour, sometimes you charge by your deadline. It really depends on the work that you are trying to do for the person. But like a lot of times it is very important to like put into consideration how long it will take you to complete the work, the amount of work you have to do to actually complete the work,
Mm.
and you see the countenance of the person, the client that's offering you the work. Sometimes it can be very pointless to take jobs from some people because you just stress yourself, and at the end of the day, you really wouldn't gain much from it. And then again, there are some clients that, like I said, there's some that make your life easy, and they just give you crazy, not just creative freedom. They tell you what they want. Another thing is communication. They tell you what they want. They really come, because there's some that will tell you what they want, and then you provide it for them, and they're like, oh, you know what, change this, and you're like, this
Oh
is not
my
what we
God.
originally discussed. You understand? That's time.
Mm-hmm.
This, you are infringing on another person's time. But there are some that they will communicate it, and then they communicate it best, and then you hear it, and then this is what they want, and then you give them there's constant communication throughout, and then at the end everybody walks away happy. I did a job, I got paid for it. You offered a job, you got your job, and you liked what you were offered. You understand? So it's not easy handling some clients, especially in Nigeria, because a lot of people, they don't understand the concept of respecting another person's time.
Mm.
You understand? So yeah, it's
Okay.
just it's like any other business, something you manage.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think even beyond probably like I think freelancers will have it worse in this sense, right? But like the regular 9 to 5 people self, like the
Yeah,
way.
it's all just it's all just it's difficult. It's really difficult all around. But like again, like I said, it's just how you manage everything. Because there are some people that it feels like they just want to make your life a living hell. Understand?
Mhm.
So you just have to manage. Even with them, you have to manage the entire thing. Yeah.
Mm. All right. So I'll just ask you like the final question, right? Which is to you, Tobe Oti, what is your okay? What are first, what is your Nigerian dream? And then what is your dream as a digital artist?
Um, The Nigerian isn't the Nigerian dream to Japa? I thought that was like the all-round Nigerian dream. Isn't that like the general Nigerian dream?
uh,
That's this is it. We're leaving. Need to elaborate on it, but like, yeah. To my dream as a man, it would be very like I. One thing I really want to do is in maybe in the future I find myself directing movies. If I can at some point find myself doing that or working as an animator, a full-time animator, just creating that or just being a full-time, even if it's making music videos, I don't care, just directing and like
yeah.
being in my element 247. That's just the dream to be able to create 247 and make money and make money off it. Really, that's it. If I can do that, then there too. But music is there too. There's also music. I like to make music, but like I'm not I'm not making music. Music is more of a it feels more of a like a more of it's all they're all hobbies to me. They all feel like hobbies. But music is a real hobby. I really like making music. So I wouldn't ever make music to like for a certain demographic. Understand? So for instance, like making music for the Nigerian music industry, I can't do that. So and if people resonate, that's it for me. That's the dream. Music it's a hobby for me. And I just have to create what I want to create. You understand? So if there are people that like, I put it out, and if people like it, they like it. If it turns to something else, if it turns big, good. If it doesn't turn big, good. I'm fine by it. You understand? But the main dream is if I can find myself in a space where I can create 100% and do that in my livelihood, make that my main source of living, then I'm good. That's like the dream for me.
Okay. Excellent. So I mean this discussion has been we went human nature, right?
Yeah, we went to so many we touched on so many on so many angles, on so many random topics. So I guess that's why it's a conversation. Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe when you know you're like a musician, producer, NFT millionaire. All right. We'll now have another conversation, probably, and then we'll just talk.
Sure. That was a weird combination. Right.
Expression, like art is expression. So when you have expressed in a way that like you are fully satisfied, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Next 10 years, we just see, especially in connection to this country, what has changed, and you know, like what has changed for digital artists in the whole of Nigeria as a whole.
Yeah.
So, Tobe, thank you so much for
Yeah. This was a very nice conversation. Yeah. I really enjoyed the conversation. It was nice. It was very enjoyable. Yeah. So I'm glad we did this. Yeah.
you too, Tobe. Maybe just if you want to say your Instagram again and like how people can reach out to you before we go.
Okay, my Instagram is I actually have two, but like the main one is Tobe Oti. That's TOBEO.TI. That's my Instagram. Simple, but not simple at the same time. But like, yeah, that's basically it. So you can reach me there if you want to. Reach me there. My email address is there too, I guess. Or you can reach me on my IG. I'm there. Yeah.
And he has
So
amazing
yeah.
work. So anybody that even wants like has projects and all of that, I think like it can be a good place to just work out some of your ideas. But Tobe, thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
Yeah.
And yeah, good luck, in your journey as a digital artist, especially in Nigeria with the melodrama that we have. And I don't know about Japan as Nigerian people.
So yeah, so
Yeah. So take care of yourself.
that one. We go see. We go see now. We will see. Yeah. Thank you. You too. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. Thank you for the conversation. This was nice.